I'm bullish on Amazon as well, have been for quite some time, and the source of that bullishness, the foundation, is really just the fact that Amazon's doing such a great job at growing in its core market. There's a lot of penetration left for Amazon to go after in that core market, and then they're doing a great job of developing new markets like AWS, and I think there will be more new markets to come. So long term, I just see a long roadmap for growth here. I do think the one area that, could potentially dislocate the stock in the short term, although I'm not predicting this, but it's sort of the biggest risk factor in our mind, is the potential for a price skirmish in AWS to cause a dislocation in that business. But that hasn't happened in the recent past, and that business has been performing very nicely.
Why hasn't that happened? Because, people will point to slowing revenue growth, but the margins are staying higher. And the margins are staying higher mainly because of AWS and sort of the insulation that it gives to the margin story. Why do you think that there hasn't been that price skirmish? Isn't this essentially a commodity product on which the competitors out there, they definitely want a piece of this too?
Well, that AWS market, cloud services, has really settled into a three-player market for the most part. It's Amazon, Microsoft, and Google, and there are other players as well, but those are the big three. And what we've seen for the last couple of years is those three players have been, fairly comfortable with their market positions. I think if there were going to be a challenger that was price disruptive in the sector, it would be Google, because they're, in third place, and they have been talking about this as a place where they'd like to invest going forward. And AWS is definitely helping overall corporate margins for Amazon, but the other real bright spot is the domestic e-commerce margins are also doing a lot better than they have been, and sort of more predictable and more steadily rising as well.
Ed, in the last hour, we had a couple of guests on talking about this very same topic, and Melissa asked about the existential risk to Amazon from regulation, and they both seemed concerned about it. Are you?
No, I'm not as concerned about it. I think a lot of the rhetoric that we've been hearing around that is a little bit overblown. Also, Amazon, as you were putting it earlier, they're in multiple markets. They're dominating e-commerce, yes, but a big part of their growth is really coming from things like advertising. They've got a $2 billion quarter advertising business, when last year it was less than $1 billion. So they've doubled that in a year's time, and it's something that they weren't even looking at before. So there is sort of a dominance in one area, growth in other areas. I think AWS is another key aspect that was discussed earlier. The thing of it is with AWS, despite sort of there this sort of triopoly, so to speak, with that marketplace, every new startup, as well as every legacy company, they're all trying to get into the cloud as much as possible. So every time these businesses sort of want to expand or grow, or they pop up out of nowhere, it's new business for these guys. So the market itself is just also growing. So I don't know how you sort of define dominance when the market is growing as well. So just looking at the math, I think it's hard to make a regulatory concern argument, though you never know, especially with this administration.